I was finishing work late one Thursday when my boss's assistant, Natalie, suddenly texted me. Her message contained only one sentence: "I have information about your wife." I stared at the screen, wondering why she would know anything about my marriage. My wife, Valerie, had always been friendly with Natalie, but they weren't close. I asked what she meant. Natalie replied, "Please don't react until you see what I send you." A photograph appeared moments later. It showed Valerie sitting inside a restaurant with a man I didn't recognize. Her hand rested on his, and the expression on her face looked unmistakably intimate. I asked Natalie where she got the photograph. She said she had recognized Valerie while having dinner with a client the previous evening. The man beside my wife was someone connected to our company, though not someone I personally knew. Natalie explained that she had seen them together before and initially assumed he was a friend. Then she overheard a conversation that made her suspicious. Valerie had apparently referred to me as her husband while telling the man she was planning to leave me. Natalie said she felt uncomfortable staying silent after seeing my wife meeting him repeatedly behind my back. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Valerie had never mentioned this man. I asked Natalie whether she knew his name. She replied, "Ethan." That name meant nothing to me until she explained that he worked with one of our company's outside partners. Natalie then sent another photograph showing Valerie and Ethan entering a hotel together. My hands went cold. I called Valerie immediately, but she didn't answer. A few minutes later, she texted that she was at home and would call me after dinner. I looked at Natalie's message again and realized Valerie had just lied without hesitation again. The next morning, I asked Natalie for more information. She explained that she had noticed unusual calendar entries involving Valerie and Ethan. She wasn't spying on them. Their meetings appeared on shared company schedules because Ethan occasionally visited our office. Natalie had also seen Valerie deleting messages whenever someone approached her desk. She admitted she hadn't wanted to interfere in my personal life, but the situation became impossible to ignore. I thanked her for telling me. Then I decided not to confront Valerie immediately. I wanted to understand whether this was a single inappropriate friendship or a much larger secret that had been developing. That evening, Valerie came home smiling and asked why I seemed quiet. I told her work had been stressful. She kissed me and started preparing dinner. Watching her behave normally while I knew something was wrong felt surreal. Finally, I asked whether she knew someone named Ethan. Her hands stopped moving. She asked why I was asking. I said I had heard his name at work. She immediately claimed he was only a business contact. I asked whether she had ever met him outside work. She hesitated before saying no. That lie hurt more than the photograph because I already knew the answer. I told Valerie I knew about the restaurant and the hotel. Her face changed instantly. She asked who had told me. I refused to reveal Natalie's name because I didn't want her blamed for exposing the truth. Valerie started crying and admitted Ethan had become important to her. She insisted they had never planned to hurt me. I asked whether she had planned to leave me for him. She whispered that she had considered it. I asked how long she had been thinking about leaving. She said several months. Suddenly, the strange behavior I'd noticed wasn't random. She had already been imagining a different life. I asked Valerie why she had never told me she was unhappy. She said she was afraid I would become angry and that Ethan made her feel understood. I told her that being unhappy didn't justify maintaining a secret relationship. She apologized and promised to end things with Ethan. Then she asked whether we could attend counseling. I said I needed time before deciding anything. I wasn't interested in making a permanent decision while emotions were high. That night, I slept in the guest room. For the first time in years, I realized I was sharing a house with someone whose private life I barely recognized. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer and quietly reviewed our finances. I didn't tell Valerie immediately because I needed to understand my options. Natalie later told me that Ethan had been informed about the situation and suddenly stopped contacting Valerie. Apparently, he hadn't expected her husband to discover everything. Valerie became increasingly desperate and asked me to give our marriage another chance. She said she would block Ethan and prove she was serious. I told her that ending the affair wouldn't automatically restore trust. She had spent months building something behind my back. Trust wouldn't return simply because the secret was exposed. A few weeks later, Valerie moved temporarily into her sister's apartment. We began counseling separately, But I eventually realized I wasn't trying to save the marriage. I was trying to understand why I had ignored so many warning signs. Valerie admitted she had become comfortable with secrecy and believed I would never discover it. She apologized for making me question my own instincts. I told her I didn't blame myself anymore. I had trusted my wife because that was what marriage was supposed to allow. The person who broke that trust was responsible for rebuilding her life, not me repairing her choices. Months later, our divorce was finalized. Valerie eventually apologized to Natalie as well, admitting that she had unfairly judged her for revealing the truth. Natalie never wanted recognition or gratitude. She simply believed I deserved to know what was happening in my own marriage. I still remember receiving that first message, "I have information about your wife." I wasn't ready for what came next, but I was grateful someone finally stopped protecting the secret. The hardest truth wasn't discovering another man. It was realizing how easily my wife had looked at me every day while planning a different future. Knowing the truth finally gave me freedom,